Okay, we are now going to be interviewing John Lubrano. We are here at the New York Antiquarian Book Show. It's an international one that happens once every year. It's April 5th, 2014. And our next interview is with John Lubrano. John, give us a little bit of background. Your parents, siblings, where you grew up, what schools you attended, etc. If you can remember.
Yeah, that's not going to be so easy. Well, for a start, I'm from Australia and grew up in Sydney and have one brother. One side of my family came from Italy at the turn of the century, 1890s, thereabouts, and all the rest came from Ireland. And so, as I say, I grew up in Sydney, went to various schools there. Finally with the Jesuits, who knocked some sense into me, or beat some sense into me, I should say.
Beat that word.
And then I went on to study hotel and restaurant management.
Ah,
And
interesting.
because I'd been working in that area as a kid, actually, in summer holidays and so forth. And then finished a 3-year course there at a college. And then I got a scholarship with the Nestle Corporation to come to the States to go to the hotel school at Cornell. And I went there, and about the time of the Vietnam protests and all that sort of thing, and ended up getting political. Met my wife Jude there.
Did you go to Cornell?
Yeah. And then my interests seemed to go further away from hotel and restaurant management, more into what was, at the time, what seemed to me to be very interesting and important. And at the same time, I started taking music classes at Cornell and so forth. And finally made the decision to dump the hotel and restaurant world, and ultimately ended up going back to Australia and started a music degree. And
What's the time frame? When did you go back?
well, I first came to the States in '69, and I guess I started a new degree in '71 or something like that. I went back to Australia and started that up, and then came back to visit Jude, who was at Columbia at the time doing at the library school. And in fact, she was in the first year of Terry Bellinger's graduating class. And I came back to visit. We found that we still cared for each other, and we actually got married here. And she had just finished up her degree, and so we went back to Australia. I had to do a bit more, and I was there for another couple of years, 2 or 3 years, I guess. No, 4 actually, while I was at school, and Jude was with me, of course. And so then we finally decided we'd come back to the States, give it a try here. And on the way back, we were sort of thinking, what will we do? And Jude had worked for, when she was at library school, Thomas Heller in the city here. So she had some experience in the rare book world. And so we decided that we would give it a try. And so we went and lived in Western Massachusetts, and we'd come down to the city with no capital whatsoever. We'd go to the Strand, and I remember we had $500. That was our startup capital, and I knew nothing at all about bookselling. And so we'd go to the Strand, they'd pile up a couple of bags of the out-of-print books, and when we got them home, I'd have a couple of dealers' catalogues, and I saw that this particular book, which I just bought for $2, is selling for $4. And to me, in having done some business training, that looked like a good percentage to me. So I said, Jude, this looks okay. Let's keep on with this. So anyway, that's where it started, and at the time, we were helped by and encouraged by a number of dealers early on In fact, at the time there was I guess one of the main music businesses was a place called Scientific Library Service down on East 10th Street.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam Orlinick
Yeah,
was
I
the
know
proprietor.
Sam.
Yeah. And we
him.
came in, and people afterwards said, you know, he was a gruff old guy, and he was the nicest guy to
He's a
us.
sweetheart.
Yeah. And he sort of kept pointing us and he said, no, well, you need this, or you need that, or you should have this reference books, whatever it was. In any case, we would go quite regularly to see him. And as I said, it was more of an education, and also we'd go and try and buy some things. And so Sam got very ill. He got cancer, and his business was closing down, and he passed away. And we, along with other people, were invited to come in and take a look. And we, at the time, had a 6-week-old baby, and we spent 2 or 3 days looking at the stock, and Mrs. Orlinick said to us, and we got talking with her, and she was nice, and she said, you know, you two, nice young couple, why don't you just buy the whole thing? And we said, thanks very much. There's no way, we couldn't do that. So, and then we looked at each other and said, well, you know, maybe there's some way we could. So, long story short, we bought it. It took a 16-wheel trailer to pick it, to collect it all. It took us 2 weeks to pack it. We come in each day. Jude's parents lived on Long Island, and most days we'd bring the baby in, and she'd be in a little bassinet on the floor, and we'd be there packing the books and so forth. And after 2 weeks, we finished, and carted all the stuff up to the Berkshires, and over the next 5 years, that was our bread and butter and our education, because we had to learn what they were, and what they were worth, of course, yeah. So that was our first major purchase, and at about the same time, well, I guess, a few years obviously after we started, Howard Mott very kindly, took us under his wing a little bit and sort of encouraged us, and proposed us to the ABAA. I guess it was 82, 83, something like that, and put us forward, and a couple of other people supported us also, so we got in, and then I think our first major purchase, in fact, I do remember, because we hadn't done a catalogue, so it must have been early on, even before we got into the ABAA. Howard said to Larry Whitten, there's a young couple here, they don't have much in terms of stock, do you have any music? And even though he didn't deal in it per se, he did have music that he had picked up over the years. And he sent us a box of pretty nice stuff, and said, basically, give me what you think it's worth. That was a pretty hard
It's a tough
job
thing to
because we had to learn what they were, and to try and establish values, and we were putting our best foot forward, anyway, I think we passed the test, because he said, that's fine, and I wish you all the very best, and I remember one of those books was the very first book that we sold at midnight out of our first catalogue. In fact, I know who the guy who bought it. He's still around. Anyway, so from then on, we just went and tried to learn, and visited other booksellers, and in fact, I had a wonderful time. I guess that was the main thing, visiting people, Lucien Goldschmidt, Breslau, what's the guy that had his business in Diamond, Jim Brady's apartment in the city here, Fleming.
John Fleming.
Yeah.
John
And,
Fleming and his ghost-like employee.
Right.
He was like a zombie, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Do you remember him?
yeah.
He was the most forbidding-looking person.
Oh, Felix. Yeah. No,
not Felix.
No.
Felix was by that time at Lathrop Harper.
Yes,
I think. Oh.
that's right. Yeah.
I can't remember. Johnny, I think they called him.
Was it? Okay, no.
But you remember
Yes,
who he...
yes, but not. I think he used to come to the fairs, didn't
Yeah.
he? Right? Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Scare people away.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. As a matter of fact, I remember the fair that. Didn't he have a fair one time, all with illuminated manuscripts and cunables and so forth? And unlike everybody else, the fair was totally cordoned off. You couldn't actually go into the booth. That impressed me.
That's what what's his name? Oh, the autograph dealer. He used to call himself Doctor, but no one ever knew he was a doctor.
Kalia.
No, he was an ABAA member, and he did one book fair, and he had a glass case, and there was no way to get into his booth, and he had his stuff up, and people would say, he would say, well, if you want, let me know what you want, and I'll bring it over for you to look at. And after a while, people just stopped going over there because it was a pain.
Right. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
But Fleming could get away with something like that, I think.
Yeah. So anyway, since then it's been a wonderful ride. And
What made you choose the subject matter that you specialize in?
music and dance, because we knew a little bit about it. I'd studied music, and Jude had danced as a young person at school from when she was young and into college and so forth, and we both liked the subjects. And I guess that's it, really. I knew a little bit about it.
Do you handle anything other than those two subjects?
Not on any regular basis. Occasionally we'll get things, and we'll usually either find another dealer and offer them to the dealers, or maybe put it up at auction or whatever.
Who were some of the other people who were sort of like mentors or helped you in those early days?
Oh, sure. Well, number one would be Albie Rosenthal. And we would go and visit Albie, certainly twice a year. Again, and just to listen to the stories, and, it's just like going back to another time. And also, we learn a lot from him. And I was very happy to say we did some things together over the years, which were fun to do, and again, very interesting. Herman Barron, Richard McNutt. In fact, we ended up buying Herman's, when Herman died, portion of the business went to Crystal, and the other portion we ended up buying. So a number of dealers in England, I'm thinking of who else, and of course Hans Schneider in Germany, and I'm thinking here in the States. When Theodore Front was busy, I was having a good time visiting him and him telling me some old stories. And they really, it's funny, but when we got into the business, there were, of course, Bill Salek was still in business. He was the...
In Ossining?
In Ossining, that's right. Yeah, he was probably at the time. World Bruck had been in business for a year or two before we started.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think who else was around. One or two others, but it didn't seem as though there were... music was just... There had been other dealers dealing in music, and they were mostly Europeans, and their time had sort of come, and they were winding up, or they were no longer in business. Really, most of the antiquarian music business, and we also deal in dance, so it's sort of a lot of us do the same. But really, the centres were in England and in Europe. Mostly London, Paris, Berlin, and so forth. Yeah.
Did you ever sell books in Australia?
No.
Once you left Australia, you were here.
Yeah.
Out in the Berkshires.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The lovely Berkshires.
Yeah.
What is your internet situation? Do you have material on there? Do you sell on the internet? How important is it, etc.?
Well, we certainly have a website, and we do sell on the internet or through the website, and then we also upload our inventory to a few databases, ZVAB in Germany and Antique Book and ABAA, and of course through the iLab site and through our ABAA site. I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, no, we do a lot. And matter of fact, today I think it's just harder to bring people to your own website. There's so much competition to get people there.
Driving traffic to your
Exactly.
website is a pretty important thing to figure out.
Yeah.
I haven't figured it
Yeah,
out.
well, we're young. Yeah, we're older people, and younger people seem to be able to do that much better.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to have my phone, when I got my first iPhone, I had my 16-year-old grandson do all the stuff for me, so so I knew what the heck I was doing.
Yeah. I still don't have one.
You still don't have an iPhone.
I know Jude does, but I
Well, an iPhone is an iPhone.
yeah.
So you've always been out in the Berkshires since you.
Well, no, we were there for 25 years, and then when Jude's dad passed away about 12 years ago, we moved down here. We're in Long Island now.
You're in Long Island?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So, what I was going to ask you is, with the world situation the way it is, with the internet the way it is, the way there are fewer younger booksellers coming into the trade and more older booksellers passing away, what do you think are some of the challenges that we face as booksellers in the next decade?
I think, I guess it's education. It's making or opening the eyes of the younger potential book buying community to the fun, to the interest, to the enjoyment of seeing the books, of owning them, touching them, smelling them, everything about that. Maybe it's not that they're not open to that. I think it's just a matter of getting the opportunity. The competition, all the different things within the range of their media that are exposed, things that are exposed to them. I mean, it's hard to get some time to do this. There's just so many opportunities out there. This obviously is a good venue for people to get the chance to come in. Now, whether they actually, it's still behind glass for the most part. I think a lot of young people are somewhat, they're reluctant to ask the questions. In fact, our assistant came in yesterday, and she said, I suggested to her, go around and take a look at the books, not for looking for business, just go and educate yourself a bit. And she said, but I went to the various book booths, and the people weren't very nice to me. They didn't ask me anything, whether I was interested in anything, or and she said, I asked a couple of times, and the people just didn't take any notice of me.
That's not good.
No. Well, that was just one experience, and she's actually she's not a particularly quiet person at all. But I try when people come in to the booth or whatever, when it doesn't matter whether I know them or not or whatever, if they express some interest or whatever, I have no trouble taking the thing out, and I'm sure like most book dealers, and that's part of our job, is to show people so they will be educated. Maybe they'll have somebody, a friend that will come along and they'll say, well, I saw this wonderful manuscript to a book, and you've got to have a look at it, or they get interested in themselves. So it's I think that's one thing. But this is just one little venue. I mean, it's a tiny fraction of what's going on in New York City today, so you can't expect to make too many converts. I don't really know. We have the website, the ABAA website and the iLab website. I mean, an awful lot of people, even within an hour out of New York, just in our other walks of life, so to speak, they don't have a clue what a rare book is. They've got no idea, whatever. In fact, I meet a lot of librarians. We do at least one, if not two conferences, musicological conferences, the Music Library Association meeting. You'd be surprised how many music libraries don't know what a first edition looks like.
No.
It's amazing.
No, they know what it looks like on their Kindle.
Yes, yeah. But also I think library science maybe today is so busy trying to educate and prepare these young people for all the things that they have to do in the library world today, which really, the actual books, handling the books and bibliography, that's a very, very small part of their exposure or their requirement. Yeah.
I think also it's important for young people to perhaps attend a place like the Colorado Book Seminar or the Virginia Rare Book School, or apparently there's going to be a rare book school in California.
Really?
That's modeled after the Rare Book School in Virginia, I suppose, for those people who don't want to travel east.
Sure, right.
But there are places where people can get some education. It's not like they have to have the interest first, don't they?
Yeah, yeah.
That would be, to me, that would be the major point. When you first started using computers, did you find it difficult or complicated, or did you just sort of like roll right into it?
Difficult and complicated. They would be the pertinent words. We bought our first computer as a result of, I guess, hearing of other dealers that had used bookies, and Mark Younger and so forth. So we had a meeting with Mark. He explained some things to us, said what a good idea it would be. And so we bought our first computer. It sat on the desk, on Jude's desk, for 6 months.
Wow.
Didn't touch it. What is that thing? We were so scared of it.
Yeah. It doesn't going to bite you.
Well, we thought it would. Or we'd be absorbed into it, you know. But anyway, no, it's been great. But since then, of course, we, gradually, and Mark was absolutely great and so understanding, and he was a terrific guy to work with, always a sense of humour. And now, of course, we're with Bookhound and Alan, who's just terrific too.
The thing I like best about Bookhound is their support.
Yeah.
No matter when you call them, day or night, if they're not there, in like 20 minutes later, you'll get a call.
Yep, sure.
And they will solve the problem on the phone.
Right.
Which I think is really great.
Yeah. And neither Alan nor Luke make either Jude or I feel totally stupid, which we know we are. So,
But there are some people who are computer people who sell books, and there are people like us who are booksellers who use a computer.
Right.
And there's quite a difference between the two. Yeah. How does your wife feel about the computer now? Is she more relaxed, or she still thinks it's going to bite her?
No. She's great. She's terrific.
She is.
Yeah.
Well, other than, did you just move from Western Mass to New York because of the death of her father? Was that the prime reason?
Yeah. Well, actually, death of her mum, and she just wanted to be close to him, her dad, so that made good sense at the time.
And how was it going here in on Long Island?
It's fine. It's close to the city. It's not beautiful. Like beautiful Berkshires, so forth. But I like to sail, and it's close to the water.
Oh, yeah.
So it's been terrific. I've had a great time, and it's good for Jude because the family are much closer, and she likes it. She likes to garden, and
Well, you can do all those
we've
things.
had a good time. It's been good.
So there are no regrets about leaving the beautiful Berkshires.
No. I mean, we go up there occasionally.
Except all the stuff you had to schlep from there to there.
Yeah, well, that's true.
That's to me. That's always the big thing.
Yeah.
We downsized from 3,800 square feet, not including the basement, to 1,600 square feet, and we had to move almost 300 boxes of books, and that nearly did me in.
Right.
It's just the moving. Like I said to her, we're never moving again.
Yeah.
Never.
Well, her dad did just pass away this past December, and so we moved into his house, and the move has been, it's only 10 minutes away, but
That's not the point.
I haven't unpacked the boxes yet.
Packing and unpacking is something that a bookseller does, but they only want to do it a little at a time.
Yeah.
When it comes to big jobs like that, they're very intimidated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very intimidated.
And reorganizing the stuff, God, because we had help to pack, and the guys, they said they would do it in an organized fashion, but now I don't know where anything is.
You don't know where anything is.
I mean,
That's
I didn't
not
know
a
anything.
good thing. It's not a good thing.
I know. Well, somebody offered us something the other day, and I said, I know this information. I knew the catalogue the book to look in that will give me the answer on this particular book. And I said, I've got no idea where it is, you know. So I had to pass that one up.
Well, you'll find it.
Oh, I know I will find
You'll
it.
find it, and just hope at the time you find it, the person's still interested.
Yeah, that's right.
Hasn't bought it from somebody else or
Exactly,
something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. One last question before we call it a day. If a young person were to come to you and say, Mr. Lubrano, I'm thinking about becoming a bookseller, what advice would you give them?
Right now, are you, I mean, you have to be prepared. I think, how should I say this? I'm both positive and negative about the future for a young person. You know? I'm not totally convinced that that the market will be there. I think that there will be a market there for wonderful, rare, highly collectible things that cost a lot of money. But I don't know about the market for those books that are in the hundreds of dollars. More and more, our institutional market has gone way off, and I hear from librarians that, well, we can download that particular edition quite easily. Doesn't cost us anything, or we can buy an online subscription to all sorts of things. We don't really need it. We're putting on a new wing, or we want another 25 computers, and all sorts of reasons. And so I have to say to somebody, you've got to think very hard, because as much fun as it is, unless you're going to deal in the high end stuff, and you have the financial wherewithal to do it, you might think about going somewhere else.
Well, somebody before you said, don't leave your day job.
Right.
Which I thought was pretty good advice.
Look, I mean, we're happy. We're delighted that we did it, and I wouldn't do anything else. And if my daughter said that she wanted to go into it again, I'd say, great. We've worked 37 years to build something that's there. We're well established. I mean,
well known.
When we wind up, what's going to happen with all that effort we've put into it? We'd like to see it go to somebody, but to start it from scratch, that'd be pretty tough going.
Well, on that happy note,
I'm sorry. Jude will disagree with me completely. She's absolutely all positive, okay? And I'm sorry. You should have interviewed her. You'd have got a different...
Maybe we'll interview her in Boston or something.
Sounds good.
But anyhow, John, thanks very much
Michael,
for
thank you.
participating. I
Thank you.
enjoyed it.
Okay,
Went by really quick.
Good, okay.